Yeah. Yes.
I knew there were a lot of interesting names in that passage. I was wondering who was going to be reading that. But, oh, well. There was a lot going on this morning, and my patience was running a little bit on the thin side. And then I read this: how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news. I had a class, I'm going off script here, but I was getting all uptight, and I needed a laugh this morning. But I had to take a class in Kansas City, Church of the Resurrection. Remember, I was living in Peoria, all the way across the state of Nebraska. I had to drive all the way to take that class. Wasn't very happy about it. Got there, and it was a preaching class. I think there were 20 some of us, and can you imagine sitting there all day, all week, listening to everybody give sermons all day. And we were doing this for a grade, so I was like number 10 or 11 or something like that. I was like, how is the professor going to remember me? So, I had this passage: how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news. So I got up there, took my shoes and socks off, and I preached the sermon in my bare feet. He remembered me, I like to tell it this way: I'm the only person who ever preached at the Church of the Resurrection in these bare feet. Of course, it was in a classroom, not the sanctuary, but hey, I don't have to tell that part. And that gave me a laugh. Brought me down to earth a little bit this morning. We all have our hang-ups. I'm no exception. One of my hang-ups is I love to watch TV. I love to watch television. I think this started when I was a little boy growing up on the farm. We got 2 channels on a good day, and one of them was educational. Sesame Street was about all it was good for. But then, we moved to town. And we had cable TV, 12 channels. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. 12 channels. That summer, I actually took a notebook and wrote down all the programs and all the time that I spent watching TV. Let's just say I could have almost had 2 full-time jobs watching TV that summer. I love TV. I still do, but believe me, I don't have time now to watch that much TV. But I still like it. The problem is the programming today. I don't know how they can actually get people on TV to do some of those things. It just baffles me how they can do that. But I live in hope, so I take my remote control and I start channel surfing. Imagine my surprise when I come across one of my favorite actors in one of my favorite movies. Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption. Some of you know it, amen. All right. For those of you who don't remember it or who are too young to remember this 1994 film, it's all about Andy. And Andy, played by Tim Robbins, I believe, was an accountant who was falsely accused of murder and then wrongly convicted of murder. Sent to prison. Now, being an accountant, he was not prepared for life inside the prison. He became friends with Morgan Freeman, who played Red. They became good friends, but Andy was really struggling. Life inside the prison was brutal. It was cruel, it was humiliating, and Andy was without hope. He was about to give up. In fact, if I remember, I only caught the tail end of the movie. It's been a long time since I think he actually had the rope prepared. He was ready to end it all. And then something happened, and he saw a light. He saw a way out of that prison, a means of escape, and even though it took years to put the plan into full motion and full action, that little spark of hope was enough to keep him going. And eventually he escaped from Shawshank. And they never caught him. They never got him. That little bit of hope redeemed him. Well, then it was Morgan Freeman's turn. He had been in the prison a long time, and he still had years to go. But finally, he was paroled. After 40-some years on the inside, he was paroled and let out into the society. And he didn't know how to live. He had been inside so long, life on the outside terrified. He didn't know what to do. He couldn't even go to the bathroom. He needed permission. And so he was nearly at the end of his rope as well, contemplating suicide, contemplating committing some sort of crime so that he could go back into the prison system, because that's what he knew, that's what he was familiar with. But then he remembered a promise that he made to Andy. And in fulfilling that promise, he came across a little bit of cash, a stash of cash, and a letter. A letter from his friend. And this is what the letter, how it reads. Dear Red, if you're reading this, you've gotten out. And if you've come this far, maybe you're willing to come a little further. You remember the name of the town, don't you? I could use a good man to help me get my project on wheels. I'll keep an eye out for you and the chessboard ready. Remember, Red, hope is a good thing. Maybe the best of things. And no good thing ever dies. I will be hoping that this letter finds you and finds you well. Your friend, Andy. This was all Red needed. A little spark of hope. And so he took the cash, he bought a bus ticket, he went down south, crossed the border, and there he found his friend. And that little bit of hope redeemed him as well. He found his redemption from Shawshank. Hope. Hope was in short supply in Jeremiah's day. Poor Jeremiah. He didn't want this job from the beginning. Remember weeks ago we talked about how Jeremiah was so young when God came to him and said, I want you to be a prophet. He's like, God, I'm too young. I don't want this. And God said, no, I want you to do it. And so Jeremiah said, fine. And so for 32 chapters, it's been doom and gloom. 32 chapters of mourning and crying and wailing and going after false gods and this and that. If you have the book of Jeremiah, I encourage you to read it. Read those 32 chapters. If you don't want to read the whole thing, I hope you have a Bible that gives you the headings. It'll give you some feeling for what Jeremiah and the people of his day were going through. The headings are sad and depressing. I mean, it's literally 32 chapters of doom and gloom. And now, Jeremiah is in prison. because he did what God asked him to do. God said, be a prophet. So he went and was a prophet. So the king put him in prison. He's in prison. King Nebuchadnezzar has come down with his army and taken all of the land surrounding Jerusalem. Everything is gone except the city itself, and it too will probably fall. And now Jeremiah is finally in a place where he can say, I told you so. If you had only listened to me, none of this would have happened. But who says God doesn't have a sense of humor? The land is gone. It's all gone. Everything has been taken by Nebuchadnezzar. Babylon has taken it all. Jerusalem's going to fall. Jeremiah is in prison. And God goes to Jeremiah and says, I want you to buy some land. Now, if you're Jeremiah, you're thinking, God, after all of this, and finally it comes true, and I am finally vindicated in front of all these people. Now you tell me, you want me to go to these people and say, yeah, I'll buy some land. God, come on. But that's what God says. Your cousin is going to come. He's going to offer you a piece of property. But sure enough, pretty soon, here comes his cousin. Now, we can only guess at the motivation, the reasons for the cousin coming. Think about it for a second. If you're the cousin, you've got this field out there that's already been taken over by the enemy. It's worthless. But could use a little silver in my pocket. Let's go talk to the crazy cousin. Let's go talk to crazy Jeremiah. Maybe he'll buy it. We know that. That's not in the Bible. I'm paraphrasing greatly here. But think about it. It's worthless. Who's going to buy this property? He goes in, and Jeremiah sees his cousin. And the cousin comes up to him and says, you have the right of redemption. The right of redemption. Land in Jeremiah's day was treated very differently from the way we treat it. The land was considered a gift from God to the tribe, to the clan, to the family. The land was not supposed to leave the family. And so as a close family member, Jeremiah had the right to buy it, to keep the land in the family. And Jeremiah sees his cousin just like God had said, and Jeremiah sees this as God's will, that God has spoken. He says, yes, I will buy the land. He calls the witnesses in, he counts out the silver, he weighs it on the proper scales, he follows the law, he follows everything that's supposed to be done. The deeds are written out, the sealed and the unsealed copies of the deed, everything is just the way the law says. And then, with the deeds in hand, he tells them to take these deeds and put them in a clay jar and keep them safe. Because God is telling you, God is telling all of us that property will one day be bought and sold in this land again. God will redeem his land. God will redeem his people. And you can count on it. God brings hope to a people who have been exiled, humiliated, and beaten at every turn. And God brings hope. And it comes to pass. And if you want an envision of hope, there it is.
Tell Grandma.
Hope resides in the children. Let them come. He's not afraid to come down for us. 2,000 years ago, God brought us hope. I hope you know who I'm talking about. But today we live in a time and in a society that wants to say this is post-Christendom. Post meaning after Christendom, the time of Christ. Do we really live in a time of post-Christendom? Does our faith, does our belief not matter anymore? The world likes to laugh. They say it's crazy what we believe in. You know what I'm talking about. You know as well as I do. Some of the things that we believe in, that the world would have us believe, it's as crazy as buying a piece of land that's already been taken by the enemy. What part of the Jesus story does the world want to laugh at? Help me out here. Something about his birth? Is there something about Jesus' birth that the world says is ridiculous? Immaculate conception, born of a virgin. No, this is impossible. It can't happen. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. As ridiculous as Jeremiah buying a piece of land. What about when he grew up and he went out and he broke bread and he healed people? What about that part? What does the world say about that? All those miracles. It's not possible. Can't happen. How could you believe that? And they want to spread doubt and they want to have us turn against our faith and our belief. What about his death? What about his death makes us uncomfortable? He rose again. How could you believe that? Really? And then what happened after he rose? The story goes he ascended into heaven. He ascended into heaven. Really? In Hebrews 11:1, it says, faith is the assurance of those things hoped for. Faith is the assurance of those things hoped for. Jesus Christ is our hope. We have faith in the story of Jesus Christ. We have faith in Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ is our hope. He came as a light to this world 2,000 years ago. And in our deepest, darkest moments, when things are the bleakest and the darkest, Jesus Christ is still there. That light on a hill. That beacon of hope. Our redemption. Remember, Red. Remember. Hope is a good thing. Maybe it's the best of things. And good things never die. Jesus Christ never dies. Our hope and our redemption lives on. Be hopeful. Be redeemed in Jesus Christ.